Before the release of its 7th season in 2025, the amazing world of Gumball went through a ton of changes before Elmore and its hilarious residents became what we know today.
Hey! T-Rex!
Most people have no idea, but Gumball wasn't supposed to be a blue cat, the son of a pink bunny. In the original concept, the main character was actually going to be a blue dog, just like his dad, who had a slightly different and larger design, and there was a reason for that. The show's creator, Ben Bockelay, is super allergic to cats, and that's exactly why he loves dogs, but Cartoon Network's top execs asked him to change that, and you know how it goes. When the boss says something, you just do it. But hang on, this was just one of the many changes Gumball went through. After Ben changed Gumball's species, he came up with another version where Gumball was a black cat wearing a beanie. As you might know, black cats are considered bad luck in lots of places, and that was the whole point. Gumball would be the unluckiest guy in Elmore, but he'd still stay super positive. Totally different from the happy-go-lucky blue cat we ended up with. And even though this version was honestly really cool, the higher-ups turned it down again. They wanted a character that looked similar to the original dog version, but as a cat instead. That's when the Gumball we all know finally came to life and made his official debut in the very first episode that aired on Cartoon Network in May 2011. But that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Gumball's creation story, and everything that changed over the years. So let's dive in and get your mind blown. Aside from Gumball, the character who went through the biggest transformation between early concepts and the final show was definitely his brother, Darwin. In the original pilot, the little fish was animated in 3D while Gumball was in 2D. Also, Darwin and Gumball weren't supposed to be brothers at all, just best friends at school, which kinda made sense since not only are they different species, they don't even belong to the same animal class, mammals versus fish. But as we saw in the episode The Origins, we eventually learned how the little orange fish ended up in the Watterson family. We just still don't know who his real parents are. Something we definitely want to cover in another video. Originally, Darwin was going to be way smaller than Gumball, which lines up with the fact that he's actually 2 years younger than his wild brother, even though they look like the same age in the show. Another fun detail that changed, Darwin's sneakers. In the 6 seasons we've seen they're green, but in early sketches they were purple, and in the pilot episode they were completely white. A tiny detail, but pretty cool, even if it doesn't really change anything. As we mentioned earlier, Ben Bockelay had very different plans for Richard Watterson. He was supposed to be a blue dog too, with floppy ears and a mischievous personality. Richard was meant to play a much bigger role in the series, since he was one of the first characters Ben ever designed. There was even a version where he wore glasses and had a beard, which would have made him look way more serious. But that's the total opposite of the Richard we all love. A total goofball and one of the most wholesome souls in all of animation. One more thing that was originally going to be totally different was one of the show's most iconic places, Elmore Junior High. It's the setting for some of the wildest moments in the entire series, and we have to give a quick shout out to Chris Morris.
Should we call Rocky and get him to let us in so we can find Chris Morris?
Are you crazy, man? We can't let people know we left an infirm rodent alone all weekend with no food or water?
Seriously, every time I think of that creepy old hamster principal, I just burst out laughing. And it's also there where we meet some of the weirdest characters to ever exist in the amazing world of Gumball. But in the original pilot, it looks like a car repair shop with a junkyard in the back. Seriously, it's so tiny I doubt Hector's pinky toe could even fit in there. The version we know from the show is absolutely perfect for what it's meant to be. A school with multiple classrooms and many different students. So yeah, big thanks to Ben for that change.
Oh, thanks, man!
Throughout the 2008 pilot episode, we can spot several of Gumball and Darwin's future classmates who would later reappear when the show officially launched in 2011. And one of them, who looked pretty different, is definitely Alan. Sure, he's still a green balloon, but if you look closely, you'll see his facial features were drawn differently. The changes aren't drastic, but in the pilot, he had freckles and a nose, things he no longer has in the final version. Plus, his eyes were drawn in that old-school Mickey Mouse style, with that little notch in the middle. But without a doubt, the biggest shock is that Alan was originally going to be Masami's boyfriend instead of Carmen's. Which actually makes some sense, since both of them float in the air, unlike Carmen, who's literally a walking cactus. But a lot of fans, us included, believe the real beauty of Alan and Carmen's story is in how impossible their love is from the start, totally Gumball style. Another character who looked totally different was Terry, who, believe it or not, was actually male in the pilot. This becomes obvious when he gets blown by Leslie's sneeze into the girls' bathroom, gets squished, and then tossed out like a crumpled paper ball. As we know, Terry has always been a girl in the actual series, and even had a short-lived romance with Darwin thanks to a magic love potion brewed by Carrie.
That means there's more of you to love.
Another character who was supposed to look totally different was Miss Simeon, and believe it or not, she was supposed to look even uglier than how she does in the show. Her head was going to be completely covered in fur, kinda resembling a South American monkey species called a marmoset, mixed with a constipated, grumpy chimpanzee. Honestly, we gotta give some credit to Principal Brown for being brave enough to put up with her. Speaking of the principal of Elmore Junior High, we have to point out that he was going to have some changes too. His color would have been closer to lilac rather than brown, and with that, his name wouldn't even have been Brown anymore, since he wasn't brown. He was going to be called Harry Slug. Wonder what the principal would have thought about that change. There were also a few characters that Ben created who never ended up making it into any of Gumball's seasons, but they still deserve an honorable mention because some of them are super creative. One of them was a guy named Fragile, a student who, according to his description, was never seen by any of his classmates because he lived inside a cardboard box with the word Fragile written on it. Gumball's classmate would have had 4 legs and 2 arms, which really proves how out there he was. There was also Splatty, who would have been a sentient blue spray paint splotch, using the walls of Elmore Junior High to get around, sort of like how Prismo moves in Adventure Time. And there was even going to be another teacher at Elmore, but they never got around to giving him a name. He was just a doodled piece of paper holding a tiny stick, though no one really knows what that stick was supposed to be for. Another guy, whose name was never revealed, looked like a walking wad of paper with arms and legs. He also had glasses and carried a black briefcase, clearly implying he had a job. If I had to guess, I'd say this guy might be Terry's dad, or maybe a distant relative. After all, they're all animated pieces of paper with lives of their own. And that wasn't the only interesting character with no name. There was also this totally bizarre dude fans started calling Butthead, because he literally had a second face, right on his butt. Straight up cat dog vibes right there. Next to him, there's a character who seems like a mashup of Masami and Ocho. Basically, a little pink cloud, whose appearance would change depending on how she was feeling emotionally, becoming less pixelated as she got sadder. Another one of Gumball's classmates was this strange kid, who always held his own face like it was a mask. Just more proof that Elmore really is a place like no other. Now circling back to Gumball, even after he was redesigned as a blue cat, because that's what the Cartoon Network execs wanted. The early version of his character still had a few differences from the one we know today. For one thing, his outfit was completely different. In some concept art, you can see he was originally supposed to wear a yellow checkered shirt and red sneakers. Then in the pilot episode, he's barefoot, just like in the actual series. But the yellow checkered shirt was swapped for a sporty yellow zip-up tee. Also, his head was totally blocky, like something straight out of Minecraft, though clearly not from the actual Minecraft world. You get what I mean, right? But as we all know in the final version of the show, Gumball's head is nice and round, just the way we all came to love it. Here's a fun fact most fans probably never noticed. Gumball and Darwin were actually different people in seasons 1 and 2. Yeah, really. If you compare images of the characters, you'll notice that both Gumball and Darwin, along with a bunch of others, had much more stretched out, oval-shaped eyes. But starting in season 3, every character's eyes turned into small round circles. Just look at the 2 versions side by side. The change is pretty obvious when you compare them like that. Still, we're sure most fans never even realized this until now. And if you're also obsessed with everything pop culture, check out the 2 videos we've picked out for you right here on your screen. Go ahead and click either one. Whichever you choose, we're sure you'll love it.